and single or not, self-care and self-love is always a good idea. So I'm curious, what's your self-love routine like? And I don't mean that it has to be romantic and flowery and sensual all the time. I just mean, what are the ways that you are taking care of yourself on a regular basis and making sure that that happens as a priority? How are all of you doing this week? Happy Friday! We're almost at the weekend. And I actually, don't tell my dad, forgot that Chinese New Year was before Valentine's Day, so I didn't necessarily make it a theme for our Facebook Lives, but that's okay. Happy Chinese New Year tomorrow for those of you who are celebrating. It's the year of the dragon. What's your sign? I narrowly missed being a dragon, so instead I'm a rabbit. Anyway, let's get going with today's live. I'm excited about this one. We are going to practice or learn how to start bringing a self love or self care routine into your week so that you can be consistent with it and hopefully have it become a habit. The first key to start establishing your daily love rituals is to start giving yourself the opportunity to practice these things on a regular basis. Now, I know we're all busy, so catching snippets of time here and there can be tricky. However, we are going to start with something that's really easy in theory and sometimes a little bit more challenging in practice, which I've been talking about a little bit on Facebook this week, and that is to watch your language. So, the words that we say are incredibly powerful and can impact our state and therefore our behaviors. So, when you are speaking to someone or the self talk in your head is going off chattering, if it's an inner critic, just pay attention to the words or the feelings that are evoked by that inner voice. So when you are saying things like I should or I can't or constantly using negatives, that can change how our physiology and then our behaviors are. Because, for example, let's say that you are trying to do some kind of task and you're thinking to yourself, okay, don't mess this up. Our brain takes away the negation and we interpret mess this up first and then come back to don't afterwards. So instead of saying something like don't mess this up, we could say I'm going to succeed or this is going to be easy and totally effortless. Something like that instead. Another way that we can watch our language, especially in the context of healthcare, is noticing what we say to other people because this can have a huge impact on their outcome. I don't know if it's just me, or let me know if this has happened to you. You've had somebody come in and they're like, okay, I saw my doctor, my surgeon, whoever, and they told me this is never going to get better. So I guess that's just how it is. And then I'm like, oh, okay. When you use words like that to install your beliefs into other people, they almost have no choice but to believe them, especially when there is that power differential that can exist in a healthcare client relationship. So when that happens to me, I'll try to unpack it a little bit and ask people, okay, even though they said that, what do you think? And if their responses are tied to the fact that they already took what the other person said as truth, I see if we can like tease it apart a little bit so that we can notice things that counter what this person has told them. Like, oh, they said it would never get better, but remember last week you told me it actually was feeling a little bit better. What do you think about that? And just trying to get somebody to not be so attached to a rigid statement or belief that they might take on to their own detriment. That's just an example from healthcare. Can you think of any others that might affect you in your regular life? One of the funny examples of using your words better is, for example, having kids in a grocery store having a tantrum. Say you're grocery shopping, your kid breaks down and is like screaming on the floor. Instead of being like, don't do that, stop crying, think about using words like, let's be calm, let's get up. Say what you mean, and that will help the other person to take on the words that you're saying with the intention that you have. Instead of stop crying, they're going to hear crying and then maybe not even notice the stop part. So here is a silly task that we can use, or a silly fun activity that we can use to start playing with our words and our beliefs. And in NLP, neuro linguistic programming, because of how important words are in affecting our beliefs, we can use different statements and create this cause and effect with them. And by that, I mean saying things like matching an outcome with a condition that you already experience. So you might say something like, I have gone to the gym today, therefore, and it doesn't have to make sense, therefore, I am happier. Or, I am a good person, therefore, I attract amazing clients at work. Or, I like to cook, therefore my children are well behaved. It doesn't have to make sense, but when you can start stringing together these statements, one of which is true about you and the other which you would like to have happen, then that can be a really fun way. And I've heard this being used with kids before, like someone saying to their little kid, "Oh wow, you're so good at math. That means you are going to be successful and strong." And then you could logic it out and be like, well, just because you have math skills doesn't mean you're going to be successful and strong. But these are ways that you can positively impact somebody and affect their programming with a little bit of a nudge to their unconscious mind. And because somebody wants to hear that something they're already doing is pushing them towards the direction that they want, why wouldn't they believe you? And it's not to be deceptive or sneaky or anything. It's just to start using language to your advantage to help the people around you. You could say to your clients, wow, you've been so diligent with your exercise program. I know for sure that you're going to be successful in your recovery. Do you know that for sure? Not necessarily, possibly, but that person who is being really diligent and who wants to recover could put those things together as cause and effect and just take that as a truth that is actually going to help them. The thing with doing this is that you want to make sure that it benefits the person as well as the environment. It's not doing anything underhanded so that you can make personal gain or anything like that. Does that make sense? So see if you can come up with a few statements like that. And they can be silly, like, I wear contact lenses or glasses, therefore I am more friendly. Who cares? It doesn't make a difference, but these are things you're already doing or that you know are true about yourself, so why not make them benefit you and help you to feel good? Good morning, everybody. How are you doing today? Thanks for joining today. We are on to our second point of our live today, which is how to prioritize yourself without feeling guilty so that you can be able to nourish your mind, body, and your spirit. If you're like many of the women in this group, you are a superstar. You do it all, you don't complain about it, and you are pretty much tired all the time. And I don't mean that it's a bad thing to do it all or to want to have it all. I can certainly relate to that. Oh, good morning. Hey, Sharon. Thanks for joining in. But what I would like to press upon you is that you don't have to do it all. It doesn't need to be a way for you to prove yourself or prove your worth. It's okay to ask for help and it's okay to receive help. I honestly believe we are wired for connection and we aren't meant to go it alone. There's so much evidence in throughout history that humans are pack or herd animals and we do better when we're with other people. So when we can group together and support each other, that's how we get stronger and we raise everybody up. So when you put yourself first so that you can be there for other people, that's not selfish. That's really important. What are some ways that you have experienced that sense of, I don't know, guilt or uncertainty about whether or not you deserve time for self care? I know a lot of my kids who, or a lot of my kids, a lot of my friends who have kids talk about not knowing when to schedule in their exercise. So whether it's I need to take care of my kids and their lunches and get them to school, and that sacrifices my workout time, or I don't have the finances to be able to afford a gym membership because our kid needs to do soccer or swimming or something like that. And what I would like for you to consider is that if you're the one who's going to be there for yourself, for your family, for your coworkers, for possibly your clients, it's in your best interest to take care of yourself first so that you have the ability to generate that output for other people. Oh, hi, Alma. Good to see you. Your priority chart. Yes. So, what Alma is talking about was this little box with four boxes in it. And we were talking about the different things that you felt were really important and necessary to do in your life, and then how to decide what actually needed to be done versus what could be set aside or perhaps delegated or just left. And it does make that long to-do list that I'm sure many of you have seem much more manageable. I have a to-do list, but these days I'm kind of going with the flow a little bit more and trying not to think that, my worth or my value is attached to how much I can get through because I'm only human. There's no point in burning out or feeling exhausted to check a box, right? With that, we are leading into how to craft this self love routine so that it can align with your unique needs and your schedule. And here's the thing, it has to feel right for you, and it doesn't need to be overwhelming. I know some people have this idea that they have to have the best morning routine or they have to do certain things every day because they've been told that that's the right thing for them. But all of us are unique and it has to feel right for you. And it's okay if you don't do it consistently every day. It might change depending on how you're feeling. And personally, I think being able to tap into that intuition and that inner trust is really important because otherwise, we're just on autopilot and not really checking in with ourselves on a regular basis. So maybe it is doing something in the morning, but it doesn't have to be the same thing. Sometimes I am really craving a meditation. Other times I want to listen to some upbeat music and maybe move my body a little bit, do more of a structured workout. It doesn't really matter. What we want is for you to find something that works in your life and that can be adaptable because when we have flexibility, it's super important. I'm curious for those of you who are watching, what do you like to do in terms of self care? Is it exercise? Is it making a meal that is warm and nourishing and healthy every day? Is it being able to journal for yourself? I was talking to a friend the other day and it was interesting. She said that she's never journaled her thoughts and feelings because she never wanted anyone to read what she had written down. And I was like, "Oh, that's fair. I get it." I used to have that concern that somebody might open my journal and read what it had to say, but honestly, sometimes it just feels good, especially if you're experiencing more overwhelming emotions, to just get it out on paper. And you don't even have to keep it. You could always tear it up. You could take a match to it and burn it, let it go. You could scream and stomp or cry. What I'm trying to say is that being able to feel your emotions and then process them can be a really important aspect of self care and self love. And I think one that many of us think we should do, but don't necessarily do, myself included sometimes. So, I would like to suggest that doing something on a daily basis that makes you feel valued to yourself and maybe being able to access going from a more stressed state to a calmer state or from a calmer state to a more energized state will help us to build that flexibility and resilience in our nervous systems. And then our brains can more easily access those states when we need them. So it means that we're not going to be stuck on one end or the other. We'll be able to jump more quickly when we desire more or less energy. And many of you who have been following for a little bit have learned some neuro drills to be able to do this. Again, maybe for you it's breath work or meditation or exercise or having a bubble bath or spending time with friends, but it's going to be unique for everybody. I just want you to be able to find something or a group of options that you could have on hand as things that you might do to help yourself feel better. So start making that list. Ooh, Alma says she doesn't do it often, but the ideal thing to do would be spinning and glazing pottery. But on a daily basis, I like to take a bit longer in the shower. That's amazing. Oh my goodness, creative endeavors are so, yeah, amazing. And taking longer in the shower, I also enjoy doing that, especially during the winter. It's nice to feel warm. And I would also suggest that being in the shower and if you are able to relax pretty fully, can be an amazing place to bring out that creativity and some intuition at times. So if you're feeling stuck or you're feeling like you need a pick me up, then doing something that gets you into that flow state, like a shower or some exercise or whatever it is that you've chosen for your self care, is a great thing to switch to. And then you'll find that you come back to your task feeling more energized and more capable anyway. So with that, I did want to finish off just by touching on willpower because it's a question that I had asked last week, and one of our group members said that she wanted to be able to use willpower more effectively, and I was I think I understand what she means because sometimes we do have things that need to get done and we don't necessarily feel compelled or excited about doing them. I will say that when we try to force ourselves to do things, that using willpower, it's a finite resource. I remember doing another Facebook Live on willpower and motivation, and I can link it here. But when we are trying to drive towards this outcome without a ton of excitement or enthusiasm, then that can bring up different emotions for ourselves, and it can be hard to maintain the momentum and the motivation to actually get there. So, what we can start to do is use like automation in our nervous systems so that we create emotions around the outcome that we desire, especially the one that we're having a hard time working up to because we feel it needs a lot of our willpower. And that way we can use it to our advantage rather than just pushing and pushing without necessarily getting to where we want to go. And I've done this a little bit, but we're changing the image in our mind that's associated with the outcome. So we did this in our goal setting earlier this year, but seeing whatever it is that you want to do as your outcome and then making that picture really appealing. So maybe it's doing your taxes or something. That's something that I think requires some willpower for me. I can imagine, like, I close my eyes and I get this picture of a stack of paper, the box that I keep all my receipts in, and my computer. And I'm like, mm. So, what I want you to try to do is come up with a picture in your mind. You can close your eyes and do that now. And then start to bring in a bit more brightness to the picture. See if you can sharpen the details of the picture. See if you can make this picture really big in your visual field in front of you. And then see if you can fill the picture with some sound that makes you feel happy. Maybe it's laughter, or maybe it's your favorite song. The more that we can attach positive feelings or aspects to this image, the more likely it is that there will be more of a draw towards it automatically instead of feeling this like, ugh, I don't need to do this. I don't want to do this. So now, for me, my taxes are looking bright and glowing and big, and I've got some good music playing in the background. That's just a tip for you to try. And maybe that's something that you could do with your self care routine too. Maybe self care isn't something that you're excited about doing, but you could make it more exciting by making it shiny and bright and associated with things that you enjoy. You see some comments here. Sharon Luella says, I love spending my time putting my makeup on while listening to music or a podcast. Yes, awesome. So you're definitely stacking those things as well that you enjoy, and that can be a really good boost. And she also just recently started listening to the Bible in a year plan each day or every few days while I drink my coffee. Oh, those are amazing things to do. It sounds like you are into the auditory plus some kind of kinesthetic, like drinking your coffee or putting on makeup. So those are really great self care and self love rituals to continue. Good for you. Does anybody have any questions about what to start doing before Valentine's Day? Loving yourself first so that you can spread the love and joy to others? I hope that you all have a wonderful weekend, and I look forward to staying in touch with you now that you've figured out some daily love rituals. We've talked a little bit about those statements that you can use. I'm a great person, therefore I deserve self-care, as well as how to prioritize yourself without feeling guilty about it, and how to craft a self-care routine that works for you, and how to incorporate motivation into it rather than using willpower. With that, I will leave you to your Friday. Feel free to get in touch with any questions at all, and thank you so much for tuning in. Happy Chinese New Year and Valentine's Day.